I love consecutive day visits. I was here yesterday and I've just come back again tonight. I came to see a Welsh language horror film, you know, like you do. I was going to go and see The Woman King, and then I spotted a showing of something called The Feast, and I thought, oh, what's that? And it said bracket subtitled, and when I looked it up and it was Welsh, I was like, I'm all over that. Anybody who knows me well will know that my favourite podcast, or one of my favourite podcasts, is called The Socially Distant Sports Bar. It started during lockdown, in case you can't tell, and it's hosted by 3 Welshmen. And I just have developed this strange, I wouldn't say obsession, but fixation, is that any better, with all things Wales in the last 2 or 3 years. It's very odd. So I don't speak Welsh, but it was subtitled. I've looked up what feast is in Welsh, and the Google Translate person tells me it's Gwledd. I have no idea if I'm saying that correctly. And here endeth my attempt to say anything in Welsh, because I'll just make an absolute spanner of myself. I am so glad I came to see this film. It was superb. It was short. It was different. It was inventive. I don't really know why I'm reviewing it, because realistically, how many people actually watch my reviews? Not many. And how many people who do watch my reviews would consider watching a Welsh language horror film? Even less. However, I'm going to talk about it anyway because it was brilliant. Here are things I loved about it. I would assume, although I could be wrong, that this was made on a modest budget. And for that reason, and also because it serves the story, it's all in one location. Now, when you get a film like this, horror or otherwise, having to do everything, I'm going to yawn, face hugger, having to do everything in one place presents challenges, but it also helps to make the story feel really contained. And in the case of a horror film, it kind of makes it feel quite claustrophobic, which works really well. So I loved that it was all set in one place. I loved that there was only a set number of characters. The music was really good. It was really well scored. The performances were brilliant, particularly the young female lead. The premise is that a wealthy couple, he's a member of parliament, and she's his wife, they have this beautiful modern sort of fancy bungalow that's built on land that belonged to her parents, that was farming land, and they've sort of taken it and turned it into this beautifully designed fancy bungalow. They're hosting a dinner party for a friend / businessman of theirs and a local couple, with the premise of trying to get the local couple to agree to some drilling on their land. The other guy who's coming to dinner, Eros, who's been in business with the couple, Glenda and Gwyn, for many years. They've been drilling and looking for valuable minerals, I think they said, and they want access to this farm that is next door. So because they're having this little dinner party, and because they're fancy, and because they want to show off, they have a young woman come to do sort of serving, waitressing, assisting with the preparing of the food. Her name is Cardi. How would we pronounce it? Not Cardi like Cardi B. It was Cadi. I'm trying to think how the people in the films just listen to them saying her name for like 90 minutes and I can't remember how they pronounced it. But she turns up, she's quite odd. Sort of young, early 20s. Yawning again. She's not the usual person they would use if they were hosting a dinner party, but she's come recommended, so she turns up. The couple have 2 sons. They are both adults. They are both being kept at home for reasons that are not fully clear for one and clear for the other. So these men are both in their 20s, mid-20s. They're both very different from each other. One of them you find out was sort of big into drugs in London, so they've extracted him to keep him alive. The other one is training for a triathlon. He's quite odd, and it's kind of hinted at that he's done something strange, but you don't know what. So there's quite a lot of stuff bubbling under the surface, and there's sort of this overall feeling of oddness that you can't really put your finger on. The film is basically the setup, she turns up, preparing for dinner, weird stuff happens, and there's a huge amount of violence. Very, very gory violence. It was an 18 certificate, which, like I always say, is quite rare. It's not often you need one. But it was brilliant. I was so tense because it was just clear. I mean, obviously it's clear when you go to see a horror film that bad stuff's going to happen, but a lot of it took place in the daylight. It was really just building of tension by using music and looks, and sort of, it was the very opposite of what Mark Kermode would call a quiet bang type horror film. This was proper tension, and it came from the music and the performances and the looks, and there was just this building sense of bad stuff, like really bad stuff is going to happen. And it was really good, and it was 90 minutes long, like horror films should be. In, scare, out. And like, not, I was saying nothing happens. Like I say, it's building for so long, and then the climax is absolutely worth the wait. If anybody's sniggering after I've said that, have a word with yourself. You're an adult. But yeah, it was just different. And like I say, the fact that it was probably made on quite a small budget means that it was in this one location. Characters we saw in total, so there was 4 members of the family. There was Cady, Eros and Mare. Was that it? 7 people in the whole film, which is great. Excellent performances all round, really atmospheric. Didn't really think about the fact that I was reading subtitles. It's the first time I've watched a film in Welsh, actually. I'm used to reading subtitles on something that's, say, Korean or Japanese, so it was quite different to be reading subtitles on a Welsh film, but thoroughly enjoyable. Glad I came, delighted that the Odeon chose to show it. I think it was tonight only, which is another one of the reasons why I made the effort to come and see it, and I'm glad I did. And the dog was in again. So the man with the dog only seems to come and see horror films, or that's where I see him, and he did chuckle a few times at some quite weird parts of this film. So the man, not the dog wasn't chuckling, the dog was snoring as usual, so I still can't figure out what's going on there, but you know, each to their own. Anyway, I've talked for 8.5 minutes about a film that none of you are going to watch, but if you do like horror and you're not opposed to subtitles, give Feast or Gwledd, is that what I said? Don't know, I've forgotten already. Yeah, give it a bash. Superb, loved it. That's it. Katie out.